Okay, so today we are going to be doing something a little bit interesting because today is my birthday! Woo! Yay! So I did a little bit of research and actually found out that there is a birthday book tag. I'm just discovering so many things ever since I started creating this booktube channel, and I'm so happy there's a birthday book tag, so what better time to do it than on my birthday? Let's get right into it. Question 1. Name a book that is cliche, but you adore it. And the book I've chosen is this one, Mistborn: The Final Empire. Over the course of time that I've been, having this channel and doing all this booktube stuff, this book stands out as my absolute favourite, The Final Empire, book 1 in the first era of Mistborn. Yeah, I love this book so much that I even reread it at the end of last year. Having read it for the first time, I think either at the end of February or at the end of March. What makes it cliche is the books that I've come to read since reading this one. So I've come across a number of other fantasies where we have someone who is coming into their magical abilities and then they're being trained by a mentor, and also heist books as well, and all of those things happen in this book. Obviously, each book that has these things is kind of done differently, but there are many books that have these tropes, so it could be looked upon as a cliche, and because of that, that's why I've chosen this book. I love this book. For anyone who's wondering, Mistborn: The Final Empire follows a number of characters, but the protagonist's name is Vin, who we have there on the cover. Vin is an allomancer, so she has magical abilities, and the magic system works by ingesting metals. Once you ingest certain metals, they give you certain abilities. Once those metals have been burned or run out, then you don't have that ability anymore till the next time you ingest the next metal. I just love this book so much, and I have so many fond nostalgic memories of this book that it had to be the first answer. Question number 2 is your most anticipated book release for this year. Well, I had many books. I actually did a video late last year, I believe in December, talking about my most anticipated books for 2021, so feel free to check that out. But 2 of the books that I was most eagerly anticipating, I've not only already purchased, but I've already read them, and I loved them both. And they're basically right behind me. We have this one, Game Changer, and this one that you can't really see, which is As Far As You'll Take Me. Arguably, if I had to choose one book, it would be this one, As Far As You'll Take Me by Phil Stamper. So last year I read Phil Stamper's first premiere debut book, The Gravity of Us. I received it randomly in a library book haul where my library, because of COVID, had this idea of if you email them, they'll send you a book every fortnight. Well, they didn't send me a book, they sent me a box with like 20 books in them, and one of them was The Gravity of Us, which is a YA LGBTIQ+ book. I absolutely loved it so much that when I found out that Phil Stamper was releasing his second book, I knew I had to purchase a copy, and I trusted him so much that I was going in blind. There were so many times I was tempted to look at what the premise was, but I just held off, and I absolutely loved it. It was absolutely amazing. I highly recommend it. We're following a boy whose name is Marty, who lives in Texas in the United States, and he's just not doing so well over there. He is gay, and it's not really accepted in this world in Texas, so he travels over to London. He loves to play the oboe, as you can see there. He is an oboist, and he wants to go over to London to be in the London Symphonic Orchestra. The other book that I was most eagerly anticipating, also that I've read, was this one, Game Changer by Neil Shusterman. I actually read this book last month and gave it 5 stars. It was fantastic. In this book, we're following Ash, who is an American footballer who ends up receiving a concussion at some point very early on in the book, and this concussion shifts him into a slightly different universe. Along the way, our protagonist is shoved into many slightly different universes where he learns a lot of lessons along the way. I just found this to be an absolutely amazing book. Prompt number 3 is a book that surprised you with how much you loved it. And for me, I have chosen this book, Cassandra Clare's City of Bones, which is book 1 in the Shadowhunters series. Now, I'll explain why I was surprised that I loved this book. Cassandra Clare, to a ton of booktubers out there, is seen as a very polarizing author because while there are people out there who absolutely love her, there are also people out there who absolutely can't stand her work. So I ended up purchasing this book to see where I fell, and was very much prepared to hate this book, which I don't use the word hate a lot at all, but that's my point. I was prepared to hate this book and then do a full-on rant review about how much I hated this book. Once I got through this book, I realized just how much I loved it, and I ended up doing a raving review of how much I loved the book, so it very much surprised me. Prompt number 4, a book that certainly deserved all the hype it got. And I'm going to go with this book, Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is book number 2 in the Stormlight Archives series. And what sets the Stormlight Archives series apart from, well, pretty much any other series I've read, is that every single book in this series is at least 1,000 pages long. I loved book 2. Book 2 has received, this book, Words of Radiance, has received so much praise on BookTube, and it really deserves it. It may be a long book, but you know you're reading a good book when it's a long book, when you're not feeling how long it is as you're reading it. For me, I just kept wanting to read more and more and more and more and more. I did not get bored at all along the way. I ended up giving this book an overwhelming 5 stars. I just found it absolutely fascinating. Prompt number 5, a book that you read a long time ago, but you think you would appreciate it more reading it now that you're older. And that book is this one, Rowan of Rin by Emily Rodda. Now, this is a middle grade book, so it is a book that is targeted to children, but my issue when I read this as a child is that chapter 1 was so boring that it was so hard to get through, and I attempted to read it so many times. I did not know what DNFing was back when I was a child, but for those of you who don't know, DNF stands for did not finish. So you pick up a book and you put it back down and you don't pick it back up again. I DNF'd this book multiple times as a child because I just could not get through the first chapter. It was just that boring. So I ended up picking it up again last year because I wanted to see, for the exact reason that this prompt is discussing, I wanted to see if it will be different for me now reading it as an adult, and it absolutely was. I managed to force myself to get through chapter 1. I did not appreciate chapter 1 anymore, that's for sure, but by forcing myself to get through chapter 1 and being rather disciplined with myself allowed me to get on to chapter 2, and the rest of the story outside of chapter 1 was fantastic, and I'm so glad that I actually persisted and just made sure I got all the way through this book. Prompt number 6 is a book that kept you going in a sad period of your life, and for this prompt I'm going with this book, The Devil Wears Prada by Lauren Weisberger. For my birthday, I received a book that I was very eagerly anticipating last year, and that was this book, The Shadow of What Was Lost. I was very, very excited to read it. I think mostly because of the title, like, hi birds. The Shadow of What Was Lost. It just sounds so good. I got about halfway through this like 600-page book before I finally said, I'm done. It was just so incredibly boring. Nothing entertaining was happening at all. If I keep reading this, I'm just gonna get really down on myself because I'm not enjoying what I'm reading. So I DNF'd that book and picked up this one. The Devil Wears Prada was not on my TBR at the time. I literally picked it up because I DNF'd The Shadow of What Was Lost. And you know what? This was exactly what I needed. I just had so much fun reading this book, and I went from a situation where I was getting very down on myself and very sad with the fact that I was reading a book that was not entertaining me, that I really wanted to entertain me. I took a risk and DNF'd it and picked up this, and boy did my mood just turn around from the very first chapter. Prompt number 7, if you could spend a day with any fictional character, who would it be and why? So I've chosen to hold up this book, Mistborn's Secret History, because the protagonist in this book is the character that I would want to spend a day with, and that is Kelsier from Mistborn. I love Kelsier. I just think he's such a fantastic character. He is not only an amazing mentor who teaches our protagonist extremely well about the abilities that she has, but he's also such an incredibly charismatic character. And I think his charisma is what I appreciate the most. And yeah, I just always would have, ever since reading that first book, I've always wanted to hang out with the charismatic Kelsier. So Kelsier definitely had to come in here with this prompt. Prompt number 8, find a book whose cover's colour matches your birthstone. Now, I found this to be a very, very interesting prompt, and I'm very happy that I know my birthstone. My birthstone is emerald, so I went with this book because it's incredibly close, or if not, it's accurate. I mean, to me, this book is green, but emerald is a kind of green. So this is Shadow Kiss, the 3rd book in the Vampire Academy series, and I just ended up giving this book 5 stars because I absolutely loved this book. Now, prompt number 9 is a really interesting one that the moment I read it, I was like, yeah, I gotta do this. This is gonna be a whole lot of fun. So, prompt number 9 says, count your birthday. So, in this case, I'm assuming the number of days on the date of your birthday, in your bookshelf, and then count back, subtract the month, the numbered month that you're born, and that was the end of the prompt. I assume it means and then talk about that book. So I'm going to say that book 1 starts right up here in this corner. So I'm going to do that. Now I had to go a little bit higher because obviously we're starting up here, and usually this is what you only see like a little bit, like up to about that far. So I had to tilt the camera up for this. So let's do this. We're looking for 12. 1, 2, I'll go down here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so that is Divergent. And then we're going to go back 5, and I'm going to start with Divergent. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, this one. The Diva Rules. I hope I did that correctly. If I did that incorrectly, let me know in the comments below. The Diva Rules by Michelle Visage. I love this cover, and I love how sparkly it is. Oh. I remember watching a show a couple of years ago where there was a child who was saying, glitter makes everything better. And I completely agree. Sparkles make everything better. Woo! This is an adult memoir that is based on certain memories of Michelle Visage's life. This book is kind of part self-help, part memoir. So in every single chapter, Michelle Visage talks about a moment in her life where she learned a lesson, and then she takes what she learned from that lesson in a way to kind of assist you, the reader, to not make the same mistake she did, or if you're in that same situation, hopefully you can use her tips to get yourself out of it. I thought it was a fun book. It was a very quick read as well. Michelle Visage is just, I have so much credit that I want to give her because she's gone through so much, but she's such a headstrong, confident woman who just never takes no for an answer, and I just so appreciated that about her. So I really love this book, and I do highly recommend it. But anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it. It's my birthday, yay! Time to party now. So that is where I am going to leave it, letting you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading!